What's up, guys? This is Flaming Victini, and we're on the Smogon server, and we're back for the finals of OLT. We've got ABR on the left side and Alex Skywalker on the right side. Alexander has brought a pretty standard team in the terms that it has the Zard, Manaphy, Superior, then the T-Tar Exegil Sandcore plus a Garchomp. I feel like I've seen something similar in the early rounds of OLT. Something with like NJNP used or something like that sorts. And ABR has a team, pretty interesting, Manectric, AB Metagross, probably Helmet Knockoff Lando T, Healing Wish Latias, Rocks Garchomp, and probably Life Orb Kyurem to break stuff, which works well with Manectric. So, looking at the team matchup, if Alexander can trap ABR's Latias, then Zard Y can put in a lot of work if it comes in on a free switch on Metagross or a weakened Lando T. Also, if he needs to weaken up what I'm assuming to be actually, considering that he has both Lando T and Garchomp, it might actually be a Scarf Lando T, or ABR could be running the same defensive Lando T but a more offensive Garchomp. He could be trying Salak or Life Orb SD3 attack, something of the sorts. Superior doesn't. I don't really see Superior doing much unless it's a Glare set, because he does have that Metagross and the Kyurem to take it on, as well as the Manectric to outspeed it, stuff like that. And if he has a Scarfer and Lando T, that too. Excadrill, depending on the Lando T and the Garchomp, can put in a lot of work. Depending if he can weaken up the Lando T and the Garchomp, then he can put in a lot of work with the Excadrill. And his own Garchomp, if Alexander's own Garchomp, can also put in a lot of work if he can weaken up that Lando T, especially. So Manaphy is kind of hard pressed just because it doesn't have the immediate power that you'd want, but yeah, it doesn't have the immediate power that you'd want against an offensive team like ABR's, but it can still put in work. It's just that Kyurem, Manectric, Latias, all of those are problems. Faster Garchomp, and ABR actually leads off with the Kyurem Black as Alexander leads off with the T-Tar. This is a good matchup for Alexander. He should be able to take any hit that his Kyurem wants to go for. I kind of doubt the Kyurem would have Iron Head, and he could Stone Edge here, he could go for his Rocks, he could Pursuit expecting a switch to try to get off damage on this, which would help him a bit. And I think the most likely play from Alexander maybe to just get up his Rocks to start pressuring this, because the Kyurem is Rocks weak, and against the Manectric teams, you really want to get that chip damage. You don't want to allow them to pivot around for free, and this also pressures Latias a lot more, which is good. It removes some pressure from Excadrill having to spin if ABR is pressured to defog with his Latias, depending on how the hazards play out. ABR probably won't choose to defog with his Latias, just use it as a Healing Wish and as to check some stuff as a pivot. But Alexander already has 120 seconds. He's taking his time, but he's got that Star Wars theme, which is a great movie. In fact, I really enjoyed it. No spoilers, but alright guys, so sorry about that, but Alexander actually spent all the way down to 40 seconds, and his T-Tar is actually revealed to be a Scarf Tar, which means that Garchomp is most likely the Rocker, which makes sense on this kind of team. And he misses the Stone Edge against the Kyurem B as it goes for an Iron Head. Oh my god. So that's actually really surprising. I don't know why Alexander was taking so long, maybe to try to bluff something, or his Wi-Fi was screwing up, I don't know, but that Stone Edge miss is pretty big. And ABR chooses to sleeve in his Kyurem Black on the second Stone Edge, and it just drops. My goodness, I don't know why he would. I don't know why. I guess he was trying to catch an over prediction from Alexander, trying to predict the Lando T or the Garchomp. But the Garchomp comes in. I'm thinking at this point that the Lando T is a Choice Scarf user, and this Garchomp is the Rocker, unless ABR is just trying to get a quick kill right here, which he can do if this is offensive Chomp. Just click Outrage. Nothing really can come in. Excadrill is not really coming in on the Garchomp. And Alexander, he doesn't really have much of a choice here. He might choose to go to his Manaphy, as he actually goes to his own Garchomp. So definitely not expecting this Garchomp to be an offensive one. And it's a choice here whether he wants to. I think he'd want to go for the Rocks just to pressure that Manectric. But as ABR actually goes straight into the Latias, which is a pretty aggressive prediction because he could have gone for the dragon move, but that was kind of unlikely, especially since it probably has dragon tail, so he probably would just go for the rocks. And Alexander doesn't really have any Draco switch in right here because his T-Tar is weak. ABR does have to be careful though, because if he kills something with the Latias, then that means the T-Tar can come in, and if he can win a crunch or a pursuit 50-50, then the Latias is gone, which is really big, and then the T-Tar can still put a ton of pressure on the rest of his team, as ABR actually pulls a double switch into his Lando T. Oh my god, so Alexander actually chooses that he wants to sack his Charizard to trap it with T-Tar, I guess, as ABR actually goes to his Lando T, which is good for him, because he can still put a lot of pressure to try to get a kill without actually getting the kill with the Latias, so that way he can, oh my god. So ABR makes an aggressive prediction and goes for the U-turn, which means that, Alexander doesn't actually roost, and oh my goodness, he goes for the Fire Blast and gets a burn on this Latias, so this Latias is gone. ABR is probably just going to kill the Star Charizard Y right here, and Alexander can just finish it off. Life Orb and burn the and Stealth Rocks. Latias can't come back in, and it can get outsped by the T-Tar or even the Latias. He might choose to go with his Latias, because if he goes to T-Tar to kill the Latias, then he allows the Lando T to come back in, or the Garchomp for that matter, which is not as good, so you'd want to kill it off with Serp, I guess, and then that kind of forces in the Metagross. So it could be, ABR could, I'm thinking a few turns ahead here as, oh, it's not actually Life Orb Latias, so this is probably Colbur Latias. And Alexander is 20 seconds. Yeah, he does go to Serperior. I don't know if Leaf Storm will kill though, because Latias is bulky, as ABR just goes straight to his Metagross, which is a good idea, as he goes for the Leaf Storm right there. Now, this is, would ABR pursuit here? Because if Alexander stays into HP Fire, that would be pretty bad for ABR if he pursues. But if Alexander goes to his Garchomp on the Metagross, then that would also be pretty bad for ABR. So this is a tough play right here. Not exactly 50-50, but like Sun boosted HP Fire is doing a ton, so I feel ABR would be less inclined to go for the pursuit. But if he does go for the pursuit as the Serperior switches out to Garchomp, that works. Good for him. Alexander chooses to stay in as ABR does go for the Meteor Mash, and that did 57%. If he has Bullet Punch, Serperior will definitely live that, but it'll be a lot lower, and this would mean that the Lando T can come in and click U-turn. Now, the Lando T coming in and clicking U-turn is still problematic for ABR, because he does have the Garchomp. If he goes to the Garchomp on the U-turn, he takes Rough Skin, Rocky Helmet, and Stealth Rocks when he comes back in, so this Lando T is pretty weak. Now, Latias also can't come in on a U-turn because it'll take Stealth Rock damage and burn damage, so ABR does choose to go straight for the Earthquake, which I thought he might, which is a good option, and Alexander needs to be careful here. He really does need to be careful of the Lando T. I hope he has Balloon. If he doesn't have Balloon Drill, then the Garchomp and the Lando C is going to be much tougher to take. But he Dragon Tails, gets off a ton of damage, and he gets the Latias, so this Latias won't be doing anything more. The only way it could do something is if it came in on a if the Latias came in on a turn where like something like ABR lost him on, and then he could bring in Latias that turn after. So Alexander makes a nice choice in choosing to keep his Garchomp, so that way he can still pressure ABR to not go for U-turn haphazardly. And the T-Tar is the obvious play right here, because he needs to get that Excadrill with the Sand back up. Now, this is, I mean, if Alexander goes straight to the Excadrill and ABR goes for the T-Bolt, that's going to be really good for Alexander. If ABR goes for the Flamethrower as Alexander, there's no reason for Alexander to stay in though, because that's so risky. You'd want to save this T-Tar, as yeah, he does go to the Garchomp, so I guess he's choosing to sack that, and ABR does go straight for the T-Bolt. I would have Flamethrower there, as I guess, yeah, he'd probably just sack off the Garchomp to the HP Ice, and this gives him a chance to bring in the Excadrill. Now, this is, oh, it is Air Balloon, so that's good for Alexander. Now, the question is whether he'd go for the Earthquake or the Iron Head, predicting the Garchomp or the Lando T. If he goes for the Earthquake on the Lando T, then that gets the Intimidate and it baits the Iron Head, which is really good. But I feel like ABR would go to Garchomp right here because he wouldn't want to lose his Lando T as Alexander goes for the Iron Head, because I think that Lando T, because the Garchomp doesn't put as much immediate pressure, and the Manaphy can take it on more securely, and it can also like Dragon Tail this Excadrill, get some rough skin damage, etc. I don't know. It can also probably avoid the 2-hit KO from non-Life Orb Earthquake, if I remember calcs correctly. So ooh, this is interesting. Also, the Excadrill might be Swords Dance, so Alexander could go for the Swords Dance expecting a switch, and that would be pretty tough on ABR. But I think he wouldn't go for that because he only has 2 Sand turns to abuse it then. And if the Manectric does stay in, which that would be pretty bad for Alexander, especially if it has Overheat, although I usually don't see Overheat on ABR's Manectrics. He usually runs Flamethrowers, so, ooh. I mean, Iron Head might be a bit safer just because, well, if the Garchomp has Fire Blast, then not. But if it's like a toxic Dragon Tail Earthquake Garchomp, then maybe it is. I don't know. So ABR does choose to go to the Lando T. Did he go for the Iron Head? As he goes straight for the Earthquake. So ABR gets that play correctly. And I think since this Lando T is Choice Scarf, the Iron Head should still be able to kill this Lando T. I think ABR would choose to go to Garchomp here. Makes the most sense to me. And an insane play would be... No, that's a little too insane. I was gonna say going to Manaphy predicting the Garchomp, but I mean, it might work out. It might be the best way, because if he doesn't go to Manaphy and ABR rings in the Garchomp and it's Fire Blast Garchomp, things could get a little tricky. But and also he's not gonna really be able to use Manaphy that much unless he uses it to somehow kill the Manectric and then win with Manaphy against Lando T, or to kill the Garchomp. So it's also a matter of playing your cards right and not really using it as a sack. But if the Manaphy is somewhat bulky, it should be able to maybe it can take on a Thunderbolt from the Manectric, as ABR chooses to go into his Manectric on the Iron Head. Ooh, this is interesting. So he gets the double Intimidate. And the Sand ends out the next turn, so I'm interested to see what ABR plans to accomplish with this. What this does do is it allows his Garchomp to remain a bit healthier, and it also accounts for Alexander doubling into his Manaphy on the predicted Garchomp, as he goes back into the Lando T. What does Alexander go for? He goes for the Earthquake. Oh my. I don't know. Okay, so he decides he's going to sack his T-Tar right here, which gives him a few more. He sets up the Sand back again. The U-turn is pretty obvious right there, and he's trying to keep his Balloon as the Manectric comes back in. And the Excadrill will most definitely come out here. He has 4 turns. He has 4 turns to use his Excadrill. And ABR needs to somehow... He needs to save his Manectric. He definitely needs to save his Manectric for that Manaphy. I don't know, I feel like Garchomp would be the play from ABR. I don't think... it's tough, because Iron Head will kill Manectric at this range, so you may think, oh, it's easier to go for the Iron Head, but then you take damage, you don't deal as much damage to the Garchomp. And also, if you Earthquake the Garchomp, then there's the question of Garchomp switching into the Lando T on the second Earthquake, or would you go for the Iron Head on a Garchomp, which is kind of insane. Oh my... What? What? Why would he Thunderbolt? That doesn't make sense to me. Is he trying to ensure something with, like... I don't understand. Is he trying to ensure something with Sand turns? That must be it. As you go for the Earthquake, gets a crit, but it does not kill, and there is no Fire Blast. Can the Excadrill live a Flamethrower at this range? Can it? I mean, he does stall out the Sand turns. I guess we'll have to see. I don't want to calc right now. But can Excadrill live that Flamethrower? Can Manaphy live the Thunderbolt? I really don't know what this Manaphy set is. It is Leftovers Manaphy, so there's no chance of, like, some sub-select thing going on. And... oh my god, this is... I guess Thunderbolt was an interesting... I mean, if he would stay and go for the Flamethrower, I would go for the Flamethrower, because if he goes to his Manaphy on the Thunderbolt... if he goes to his Manaphy... excuse me, if he goes to his Manaphy on the Flamethrower, then you just Thunderbolt that thing, and if he goes back to extra drill, you've successfully wasted 2 sand turns. So I don't really understand the play of Thunderbolting the Excadrill. I don't know if Thunderbolt kills this, and we've got a calc. Thunderbolt is not a guaranteed kill on the Manaphy, and it does gain the Leftovers recovery that turn. Alexander actually has a better chance to live this than the Manectric has to kill this Manaphy. Does ABR get the roll? Does he get the roll? If he does, he might just win with a 2% Manectric. Does he get the roll? Does he get the roll? Oh my god. I'm just not gonna say anything. We'll just see what happens. And he does not get the roll, so ABR is unable to win the first game, and Alexander is just 1 game away from being the grand winner of OLT II. Oh my god, this was a pretty intense game. It came down to the wire at the end. Would he get the roll or not? And man, that was intense. So that's the game, and I'll be back with game 2. Alright guys, we're back for game 2, and Alexander has an interesting team. He's got that pink stuff going on with the Mew, Clefable, and then also possibly Fat Latias. Then he has Hippo and T-Tar, which is kind of interesting. Would that actually be Mega T-Tar? Would that be Mega Latias? I feel like Alexander would be running Mega Latias with this team. It looks a little odd actually, but looking at ABR's team, he's got the Lopunny Feraligatr thing going on, and Heatran. That might actually be Magma Storm, Power Herb, Solar Beam, Heatran. It just makes sense to, because especially he has Jirachi and Lando T, so he can kind of lure the Rotoms, which really helps with Feraligatr and a bit with Lopunny as well. And it probably also Taunt. And, I don't know, the Latios is not going to be doing much. The Heatran, depending on its set, can do a lot of damage, but that Mew looks really, really scary on Alex's team, especially if it's knockoff Mew rather than Psychic. The reason well, it depends, because Sub-CM Keldeo could potentially be a threat, but that might also be Unaware Clefable. You'd have to see, but it's probably knockoff Clef, and knockoff Mew, and that means he can put in a lot of work, spreading burns. It depends on how it can take on Heatran, really. If he can kill the Heatran, that Mew is going to put in a ton of work. He has to be wary of the Feraligatr, play his Ferrothorn carefully. Really, I see Heatran as the biggest threat to Alex's team, and the Lando T can also be a big threat if it's SD, but I kind of doubt it would be SD. So we actually see Alex lead off with the Latias. This could just be Mega and go straight for the Ice Beam, so ABR has to be careful right here. I don't think he would want to stay in. Leave this in, so his most likely switch is either Heatran or Jirachi, so he could T-Wave right here. Do we see the T-Wave? No, he just goes for the safe Ice Beam. If he went for the T-Wave, I think that would have been pretty big, because that means he can knock off this Jirachi, and it won't really be able to flinch the Mew or anything. And if the Clef is Flamethrower, they might also be able to put in work, but oh, there it is. So ABR goes for the Iron Head, does not flinch the Latias, and it's able to T-Wave the Jirachi, which is pretty big. So this Jirachi is heavily crippled. It can't really do much more. It can't really do much damage. All it can do right here is switch out on a predicted roost. And Alexander doesn't even have to roost right here. He can go for another T-Wave if he wants to. And this Jirachi is heavily crippled. The only thing he can do is it can Trick, it can U-turn around, and it can Healing Wish if it has it. So it depends on whether it has Trick or Healing Wish. It actually goes into the Heatran on the Latias. I think that was a little bit risky. If he went for the T-Wave right there, this Heatran could have been in a bit of trouble. And this Latias should be faster than the Heatran, unless this is Scarf Tran, which I really doubt. So I guess he wants to trap this. Magma Storm and Trap might be the play of his choice, but getting T-Waved by Heatran would be pretty bad. But again, this Latias is also a pretty big problem for ABR, so Alex probably won't. He might not want to let his Latias get Magma trapped, but T-Waving this Heatran would be really good for him. So, I mean, he doesn't really have a good switch-in anyway. I mean, his best switch-ins are like Hippo or T-Tar, and they're not really the most reliable switch-ins unless like full split F Hippo or something. And I don't know. Would you T-Wave right here? I mean, if this is Magma Storm Earth Power, or I mean, it'll definitely have Taunt. I'm like dead sure that this is Magma Storm Heatran, as he does choose to go for the T-Wave, and we do see the Magma Storm. I kind of doubt this would be Toxic. Toxic would be the biggest problem to Alex right here. If the Toxic comes out, then that'll be a big problem, unless the Clefable is Heal Bell, which means if he can escape unscathed from this Heatran, then that'll be really good for him. But I don't know, I have the inkling that this Heatran would be Power Herb Solar Beam. It just feels right to me on this team. And I don't know, we'll see, as he gets paralyzed right there. So we don't actually see whether this thing had Toxic or any better way to hit this. So we see the Thunderbolt, that does a good chunk, and he just goes for the Taunt. Yeah, I don't think this has Toxic. I'm thinking this is Magma Storm, Solar Beam, Earth Power, and Taunt, most likely, as he just goes for another Magma Storm. So this is looking pretty rough. Pretty rough for ABR, because this Latias, I mean, it can't roost here, which is the thing ABR is going for it, and yeah, okay, Alex just fires off another T-Bolt, and this Taunt lasts for one more turn, which means the Jirachi can U-turn on this Latias, as it's kind of forced switch. He needs to find a way to recover up with this Latias, but man, this is looking like Clef can do a lot of work. He just has to be careful about a low kick for Alligator. If he lets that for Alligator set up for free, that would be really bad, and don't let some random Pup Encore low punny run through him, and this is looking like Alexander's game to me right now. He's already paralyzed both of ABR's Steel types, and the rest of his team doesn't really handle the Mew plus Clefable stuff as well as the Latias itself even, and the moment this Latias starts recovering up, this thing, I mean, this is going to be a big problem for ABR. Yeah, so he does go into the battle, as there's the Healing Wish, okay. So that makes a bit more sense that he'd be willing to do that with his Heatran, because it is Healing Wish, so he can bring that back now. Alex could go for the Stealth Rocks, predicting the Lando T right here, or he could just go straight for the Earthquake, predicting ABR to predict the Stealth Rocks, but I'm thinking the Stealth Rocks is a bit more likely from Alexander, but it might also be a little bit more risky, depending on how risky ABR wants to play. And looking at this position, I think ABR does have to play a little bit risky to break Alex's team. The thing that is going for him though is that he has weakened that Latias and brought his Heatran back, which is really, really big. But he can't afford to let that Heatran get paralyzed and brought down again. And for Latias, I mean, Latias might have a tough time recovering just because the Lando T, if it doesn't click Stealth Rocks, if it clicks U-turn, then that Latias will have a hard time recovering. Otherwise, it can potentially recover up on the Lando T. It could recover up on the Heatran after something dies, but it's a little bit more risky. You'd probably want, I mean, you'd kind of be sacking Latias in that case. And we do see the Lando T right here as the rocks do go up. So the rocks are good for Alex, because that means chip damage on the Heatran, chip damage on it means chip damage on everything, which is just great in general. To make yourself a little bit more secure, make sure that ABR can't just pull double switches with hazards freely and somehow like win the game, because that's really, Alex has to make sure that ABR can't be just doing everything for 3-wheel switching around. So I'm curious here whether ABR would want to go for the U-turn or the sorry, I was curious if he wanted to go for the U-turn right there, but Alex just decides to play it safe, go into his Ferrothorn, as ABR is running the same knockoff U-turn, most likely helmet Lando T set, as Alexander is able to get off a Leech Seed on the Heatran. Now, right here, would ABR double to for Alligator is my question. I mean, I kind of doubt it would be low kick for Alligator, or a superpower for that matter. I don't know, I feel like Aqua Jet or Ice Punch is appreciated on a team like that. But it could be there, and that could be a problem to break through the Ferrothorn, which could potentially allow the Feraligatr to sweep. But he does double into his Lando T actually, rather than his Feraligatr, as Alex just goes for the Protect, which makes sense. He can just fire off another Leech Seed right here. And if he goes for a Protect as ABR stays in, then he recovers off all his health. And this Lando T is basically just going to go down. I mean, it wasn't really doing much other than, he does just go for the Protect. It's a good choice because he does want to keep his Ferrothorn healthy. Now my question is, would ABR go for the U-turn right here, expecting the Latias, or he just goes straight for the Earthquake, as Alex actually lays up a Spikes, which is great for him. which makes sense. If you went, I don't know. I don't know how U-turn doesn't do that much to the Latias. It's also the fact that the rocks are there that's weakening up the Latias. But ABR does go for the U-turn on the protect. So right here, I think Alex would not want to take an Earthquake. I mean, I know I wouldn't want to take that Earthquake because that makes me a little bit weaker to that Feraligatr. Now I feel a lot less comfortable against the Feraligatr if I was Alexander. But he does choose to take the Earthquake and just lay up another Spike, which is good for him because that means this Heatran has one less switch in. So there is the benefit of that, but seeing that 56% Ferrothorn, I mean, it's going to go for the Taunt, right? It's going to go for the Protect right here to get that little bit of leftovers recovery because that's really going to be important to ensure you can take on that Feraligatr. And then after that, I'm thinking you would see T-Tar as he actually chooses not to Protect. I'm not sure if there was any downside to protecting. I would have gone for the Protect right there. And at this point, if I was Alexander, I would only be worried about that Feraligatr, as he just goes for the Crunch and takes out the Heatran. Okay, so we see the Lopunny come in on the T-Tar. If it's... I mean, ABR might choose to go for the Return right here, predicting the Clefable or the Mew. And even then, depending on Alex's set, it may not be able to 2-hit KO either of them. But, this Feraligatr is easily the only remaining threat to Alex's team, to me it seems. He does have ways to take on the Lopunny and the Latios pretty reliably, and I don't know, right now I'm just speculating whether letting that Ferrothorn take that damage and also not protecting would bite him, is my question right here. But the Gator, I don't know if +1 Crunch would even kill the Ferrothorn, to be completely honest, but he does go into the Clefable as ABR goes for the Power-Up Punch. That was another option, but I think going for 2 returns might have worked out better there, because unless he's going for Gators setting up on Clef, which means it would have to be he's hoping it's not T-Wave Clef. I don't know, he does go to his Latios right here, so I don't know how he's going to try to set up his Gator. If he goes for the Psyshock, I mean, Gator's not going to really set up on the T-Tar. It really isn't going to set up on a Crunch, and then there's also Sand, Iron Barbs. I think this is looking pretty much to be Alex's game. Oh, the Defog. He could choose to go for the Defog right here, and then it's Thunder Wave, Clef, or not. I don't know, if it's not Thunder Wave, Clef, staying in here could potentially be bad for Alexander, because I don't know, it really depends on okay, so we don't see the Defog right there. Maybe this was Calm Mind Latios, maybe this was 3 attacks. Roost, because he is a little bit weak to Keldeo, but we do not see the Defog right there, which means T-Tar just comes in, crunches this Latios, Scarf Tar, so it'll outspeed, kill it. And the Feraligatr, even if it has Aqua Jet, this thing's not going to win now, because it takes Stealth Rocks, it takes Spikes, and it's going to take Sand. It's forced to take Iron Barbs damage from the Ferrothorn. If he goes for the Aqua Jet and kills this T-Tar, Latias comes in and T-Waves it. So we actually see the Crunch right there as ABR goes for the Dragon Dance, but this is guaranteed to be Alex's game. He can just go to... I mean, would this be Resto? No, there's like... I would have to see an insane set on this Feraligatr to have it win here. And ABR drops the GG. He drops the GG, so... What are we going to see here? Just Ferrothorn? I mean, he has... Could it... I mean, the Sand... He has Hippo to set up Sand as well, so there's... Unless it's Sand Force Hippo. I mean, there are 2 turns of Sand left, so it should be done. Yeah, and he also has the Ferrothorn. Like, I don't see any way ABR to win this, as he does have the superpower, but he needed to force the game in a way to set up in a better manner, and he really didn't have many setup opportunities. So, ABR is defeated by Alexander in a 2-0 victory. We are not going to see the Grand Finals, and Alexander is the new winner of the OLT tournament, second OLT tournament. Congratulations to him, and ABR brought some very nice looking teams, and he played pretty well. So congratulations to him as well for making it this far. It's pretty impressive, despite what people say about OLT. And I think this series was pretty exciting, actually. And yeah, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys later.